Hello friends, this is CA Yogesh Panchakshari and we are dealing with the costing theoretical conceptual part which plays an extremely important role in scoring really very high in this subject. So today, what is our menu? We are talking about the chapter number 3, employee cost and direct expenses. Everything about the employee cost, which can be a direct wages or indirect wages. Let's start with the first question. What exactly employee cost is and what are its types? The short note can be asked. Employee cost is anything which is paid to our direct and indirect workers in the form of wages, salary, bonus, perquisites, anything you are paying to them is considered as employee cost. That is wages and salary, allowances, incentives, overtime payment, PF contribution, and other perks. It is divided in two parts: direct employee cost and indirect employee cost. Direct employee cost is the amount paid to direct workers. That means those who are actually involved in production, while indirect employee cost is paid to those who are not directly involved in production but supporting, like accountant salary, salesman salary, factory supervisor salary. Direct employee cost can be easily allocated and charged to a particular cost unit. That means if you have employed 3000 hours for particular job, so you can directly charge it to that job. But indirect employee cost like salesman salary, accountant salary cannot be directly identified, so it needs to be apportioned, that is to be distributed among all the jobs. Direct employee cost varies proportionately with the production. That means if production is doubled, wages will be doubled, but indirect wages like accountant salary will not have any impact on the production level. So that was the difference between the direct and indirect employee cost. That can be the first short note we can have. Now coming to the second short note, that is how to control the employee cost, which departments are involved in controlling the employee cost. First department is personnel department, the department which is involved right from hiring the employees as well as deciding their wages, calculation of their wages, and all the directly connected things with the wage amount. Second, engineering and work study department makes a deeper analysis. That means how many hours were spent for a particular job, which job has consumed more workers' time so that we can charge a higher cost to them. In short, the detail analysis for distribution of wages in detail in future. Timekeeping department, its work is to record the time in and time out of every employee so that it can calculate normal hours, then overtime hours, idle time hours, etc. Payroll department makes the actual calculation of wages. That means normal hours are paid at normal rate, then overtime will be paid at higher rate and all that. And finally, cost accounting department gets all these data and make proper allocation, that is distribution of the wages, that is employee cost among different jobs. So these are 5 different departments involved in controlling or keeping watch on the employee cost. That is a second short note. Now the third short note comes like, what are the factors which you should consider while you are keeping the control on employee cost? What you should see first. Assessment of manpower requirement. Firstly, you should find out how many number of employees are required so that you can hire it properly. Control on overtime keeping and time booking. So control over time keeping and time booking. When the employee enters in and goes out, time keeping. When he's inside the organization, what exactly he's doing, for how many hours he's working on which job, time booking. Both are important. Time and motion study. That means by making the deep analysis, you can find out something that you can reduce the time required for a particular activity. For example, when at the call center, if a boy or a girl who is working over there is using the headphones, it means he or she can save the time because he can or she can simultaneously attend the call, then simultaneously at the same time she can work on computer and immediately can send the details. So it will save your time. If it would have been a landline system, it would have taken a lot of time. So time and motion study, how to reduce the time required for the same activity without affecting the quality. Control on idle time and overtime. Many times it happens that unnecessarily the overtime amount is paid because the workers tend to pass the time in normal hours and then work in overtime. And idle time, why the workers are not working, still we are paying. Idle time is the time when the workers are not actually working, but you have to pay the amount. That is idle time. So controlling on it. Control over employee turnover. It should also not happen that the employees are going out and we are losing our trained employees again and again. Wage and incentive system. That means a proper wage system must be there, Halsey, where, and all the systems as we know. Job evaluation and merit rating. Job evaluation means making the evaluation whether this particular job is required or not. For example, in case of packing, if we are spending huge amount, Why not to outsource it? There is job evaluation. And merit rating means in a particular job, whether this worker, whether this employee is required or not. So analysis of a particular job is job evaluation. Analysis of particular employee in that job is merit rating. And finally, employee productivity, you should check how much, what is the efficiency is working at, how much efficiency was expected. Everything if you check, you can keep proper control on employee cost. So these are total 8 items which has an important role or which plays an important role in controlling the employee cost. That was the short note. Now, next short note comes to what is timekeeping. What exactly timekeeping is? Timekeeping means keeping the time in and time out of every employee. That means when the employee entered in and when he has gone out. Now, what are the objectives of recording all this? Now, earlier it was manual system. You have to write your name and enter into the organization. Now it is totally automated. That means a thumb impression or even retina scan can make your attendance. So why it is to be done? For preparation of payroll, we can decide how much time you were in the organization, any extra time, any time which you were not there, you have taken half day, everything. Calculation of overtime for ascertaining and controlling the employee cost, for ascertaining the idle time. What was the idle time? You can compare timekeeping and time booking. That we'll discuss in detail. For disciplinary purpose, if there are so many holidays and maybe in some organizations more than 2 holidays a week or more than 2 late entries in a week are treated as holidays for such calculation. And for overhead distribution, because many times overheads are distributed in proportion of wages. So for all these things, timekeeping is required. Now, what are the methods? How the timekeeping is actually made? First is manual method. That means attendance register method. While entering in the company, you have to just write your name and timing and sign it. So that is manual. Metal disk and token method. That means the disk is there, a token is given to me, and whenever I am entering, I will just put it in a box so that I can immediately record, or the person can record at what time I have entered. This was manual. Mechanical and automated method. Punch card method. Earlier, the huge punching machines were there. I have to enter with one card and then the knob was there and then my time was punched over there. So punching card. Nowadays, it is not working, outdated. Biometric, as we know, on the basis of thumb impression, we can go for it. Right? So such kind of, or nowadays retina scan is also there. So such kind of systems are there. But if you want to have a good timekeeping system, what are the prerequisites? What you should have? System of timekeeping should be such that it will not allow proxy to end or make the proxy for another employee. In case of manual system like writing the names or even the card system, one of the friend may write the name of his another friend, or maybe he will drop that card in that box. So that was possible, but in mechanical, it's not possible. There should be a provision for recording time of peace employees so that regular attendance and display may be maintained. So in case of piece unit paid, that is per unit paid employees also time is required, because maybe you will say, what is the point in recording my time? I have been paid on number of units, but still discipline is important. So you should enter at right time. Time of arrival as well as time of departure of employees should be recorded so that total time of employees may be recorded and wages may be calculated. So time in, time out. Method of recording of time should be mechanical to the extent possible so that the human errors or frauds may also be reduced. Latecomers should record late arrivals. So the system should be that after a certain point, let's say after 8:15 a.m., even if you enter properly at 8:16 a.m., it will be a late mark. So that system should be there. System should be simple, smooth, and quick, and system should be reviewed, maintained, and maintained periodically to prevent any error. So proper maintenance must be there. So if your system is having these qualities, you can say that yes, it's a good timekeeping system. So that was a short note which can be asked. So the next short note is time booking. What exactly time booking is? Time booking means booking the time of each and every minute spent in the organization. That means time in and time out. What happened in between? Let's say one employee entered in the organization at 8 a.m. He went out at 8 p.m. In these 12 hours, what he was actually doing. You have to find that also, and that is called as time booking. So why it is required and how it is to be done. So time booking refers to the method of wherein each activity of an employee is recorded. Time booking is for costing. It is required because if the employee spend 100% time on particular job, then his wages for that day will be charged to that job only. But if he is spending the time on different jobs, then it will be easy to distribute his wages on it. Time booking measures the efficiency. We can find out if the worker was working for 6 hours on a job, whether he has worked efficiently or not, whether the production was accordingly uh, done or not, or he was just passing the time. Time booking for fixation of responsibility. When time booking is there, if anything happens, if the cost of particular job increases, or if the production quality is affected, then we can find out who was there and who has done all this. So fixing the responsibility is also simple with the help of time booking. So time booking can be done with the help of time cards. That time cards means there is a card whenever I am entering in a job, I will get it recorded from the job manager that I was on this job right from 11 up to 2 p.m. So that is job card. One containing analysis of time with reference to each job. So it is based on job. So that card is with the job manager and he will record the time of each and every person, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C. And second, one card with reference to each employee. Now here employee is carrying that card and whenever he will go in a job, on his card, there will be job 1, job 2, job 3, how many hours he has spent. So first is job basis and the list of employees will come. Second is employee basis and list of job will come. So in this way, the time booking is done. So time booking is finding out how much time you have spent on each job, on which job, and what was the production of that job. Now the next working note comes to payroll system. I repeat, what is payroll system? It's a part of accounting system in which the accountant or the payroll manager calculate the actual wages to be paid to each employee, considering the overtime, idle time, whatever different categories are there. So how exactly does it work? Here it is timekeeping department, that is time in and time out, as well as time booking also sometimes. Then personnel department will decide how much salary are to be paid. So all the employee details are there. Then payroll department will calculate wages and salary sheet will be given to the cost accounting department. And then it will be given, payment will be made to the employees, as well as the details should be given to the company. And whatever deductions are there, like statutory deductions like PF and all that, will be deposited to the statutory bodies, that is government. In this way, it's to be done. So attendance and time details are collected first, step number 1. List of employees and other details are taken from HR department. How many employees are there in each department? What is the wage rate fixed? Which type or which method of wages we have selected? Computation of wages and other incentives. Then basic wages, overtime wages, and other incentives, if any, if we have promised, that is calculated. Then finally, after all the deductions and additions of incentives, deduction of PF and all contributions, the payment is made to the employees. And whatever deductions we have made, it is deposited to the statutory authorities, that is government. So what kind of deductions are made generally? Provident fund, which is deducted from his salary. Then employee state insurance scheme, ESI, TDS is deducted and paid to government. Professional tax, if any. Then voluntary contribution to provident fund, which you must have gone through in Income Tax Act. Contribution to any other benevolent fund. So sometimes the organization offer them or promote some funds for them so that it will be additional benefit at the time of retirement, or just like insurance policy, that is of course voluntary, that depends on you. So loan deductions, if loan is taken from the employer, then deductions shall be done. Other advances dues if already given. So all after all these deductions, the payments are made, and in this way total computation is made by the payroll system or payroll department. So that was a short note which can be asked. Now the next and favorite short note is idle time. Idle time is the time for which the payment is made to workers, but the production does not take place. It can be normal idle time or it can be abnormal idle time. Normal idle time is generally expected, like dress changing time, tea time, lunch breaks. All these things are treated as normal idle time. It is expected, and the cost of normal idle time is apportioned by good time. So it is to be added in other overheads, so it is not transferred to costing P&L. But if it is abnormal idle times, which is not at all expected, which was not expected, like machine breakdown or maybe like corona effect. So all due to all these reasons, there is abnormal idle time, production was not done, but salary is paid. Then being abnormal, you cannot charge it to any cost sheet then or a job, then it is to be debited to costing P&L account. So normal idle time, expected, predicted, absorbed by all the good jobs, and abnormal idle time, unexpected, debited to costing P&L account. Now the next favorite short note comes to overtime. What is overtime? extra time worked by employees for which we have to make the additional payment at the premium rate or additional rate. As per Factories Act, you have to pay it as 1.5 times. What is given? Let's go through the Factories Act. Where a worker works in a factory for more than 9 hours in a day or for more than 48 hours a week, he shall, in respect of overtime work, be entitled to wages at the rate of twice. Now it is twice, not 1.5 times, twice of the ordinary wage rate. So the limit is daily 9 hours or weekly 48 hours or more. Will be paid at the double rate. Now, what are the causes of overtime and how it is treated? If the customer agrees to bear, customer requests you that please, I will be ready to pay the overtime amount, but please make sure that you will give me the delivery in time. In that case, charge it on him and add it in his cost sheet. Overtime may be called to make up the shortfall of production due to some unexpected development. It was unexpected, so maybe good or bad, I don't know, but it was unexpected. So it is abnormal overtime. We'll have to pay it to the debit it to the P&L account. But if it is normal due to it is regular, many times we get an additional offer order and then we have to pay it. Then it can be absorbed by good units. That is good job. So if it is due to abnormal reason, costing P&L. Due to normal reason, then it will be charged to the overheads that we have seen costing P&L. Okay, so that was all about the charging of overtime. Now the question comes, what are the cost related with the overtime? Let's go for that also. Okay, even if it is not given a module, we'll discuss it. There are two types of cost involved in overtime. One is preventive cost, how to control the overtime, and second is corrective cost. Once the overtime is paid, how we can control it in future. Of course, the same preventive and the controlling cost or the rectifying cost is applicable to the labor turnover also, that we will see in detail. Now the next short note comes to employee turnover, that is labor turnover, also known as LT. So labor turnover is the rate of incoming and outgoing workers, that is employees from the organization. A marginal labor turnover ratio is good because we get a fresh blood, we get fresh ideas in our organization. But if it is abnormally high, it's not good at all. Point number one, how to make the measurement. That is the part number one. There are three methods to calculate the labor turnover ratio, that is LTR. First is separation method. How many workers separated from our organization? Number of employees separated due to variety of reasons divided by average number of employees into 100. Second is replacement method. How many employees were replaced at their place divided by average number of workers into 100. And third is flux method. That is the total addition sum of first two. Now, ideally, flux method answer should tally with first two, but if there are new employees which are not replaced, but which are newly appointed, newly recruited, then that percentage may change. So, first thing is, what are the tools to analyze the labor turnover ratio? Three methods we have seen. Now, the question is, which are the costs involved related with the employee turnover, or what are the causes first? Causes can be anything. Personal causes like someone got married and she needs to get shifted to another city, that can be the reason. Maybe the environment is not suitable overall, she's not getting or he's not getting acquainted with the environment here, so he needs to go. That is medical reasons. So these are personal causes, we can't do anything. Unavoidable causes, it can be anything like family got shifted somewhere else, or maybe some area has been affected and the total area, that is all the employees from the area has been shifted, or seasonal nature of the business. Due to all these things, the unavoidable things or reasons are there. Disability also comes under the same. Then avoidable causes. Avoidable causes are like the things which were controllable but which we could not control, like the employees are not happy in the organization, then environment is not good, maybe the salary packages are not good, motivation is not there, lack of, as it is given, lack of training, recreational facilities, and wage rates and all that. So these were avoidable causes. So three types of causes can be there: personal, unavoidable, and avoidable. Of course, at least we can control the avoidable causes. What happens with labor turnover? Obviously, we lose our trained employees. We have to make the selection of new employees again. Training and recruitment cost we have to pay. The new employees will obviously make some mistakes in the initial period, so that wastage will be there. These are all the effects due to labor turnover. Now, what are the costs related with labor turnover? First is preventive cost. That is the cost or investment, you can say, so that employees will not move away, for example, or go away. For example, giving the medical facilities to employees, giving education facilities to their children, or having some perquisites, giving some additional benefits, welfare activities, etc. And replacement cost or rectifying cost means once the employee has gone, then we have to employ the new worker, new employee. So whatever cost we pay, let's say employment exchange facilities are taken from government or from private organization, we have to pay for that. Training and development, everything cost you something. So these are two costs involved with labor turnover. So this was a short note or long note, whatever you call it as, on the labor turnover. In this way, we have come to the end of this chapter, employee and direct costs. So this was our chapter number 3, and the conceptual part is around about 20-25% of the chapter. Rest of the part is practical. So go through all the detailed or all the short notes, long notes, whatever we can have. Let me know how are these notes. You can drop your comment in the comment box, and I'll be happy to help if any further requirement is there. See you in the next video for costing conceptual videos. Thank you.